police department held the ballots, okay? And Dennis Kucinich was reelected probably in 1978, 1979 as mayor. They were interviewing him at a diner called the West Side Diner and congratulating him on the air for having been reelected mayor of Cleveland. Guess what? 2 days later, the police department announced that there had been a mistake and that he didn't have enough votes to be reelected. And that was it, okay? So he was not reelected because the police department, who's going to be counting these votes, okay? Who's going to be counting these votes? I mean, he should probably tell that story himself. I'd like to ask him about it. I remember that because he had a very colorful administration. He was the youngest mayor in U.S. history. I don't know, maybe he was 26 years old when he was elected. He looked like he was about 16, and his coats were too big for him. And he was going around, you know, he wanted to stop the Cleveland Trust Company, okay, the Cleveland Trust Bank, from selling the municipal light plant. And that was the Muni Light Plant. It was a power station, major big power station owned by the city of Cleveland. And it was producing electricity at 20% lower rates than the illuminating company, the Con Ed of Cleveland. So Kucinich went, well, why should we sell this? We're getting cheaper electricity. Now that's a question that cannot be asked. All right? That's why Dennis Kucinich was unable to be reelected. Even when he was reelected, he wasn't reelected. Okay? Because you're now allowed to ask simple questions like, why should we sell it if it gives you cheaper electricity? That's the kind of thing. By the way, Kucinich is coming back. And he was RFK Jr.'s campaign manager. In case people are wondering what happened to RFK, suddenly he found out, he suddenly discovered that he really loved Israel. Even when Israel was just destroying people. He loved Israel so much. Well, Kucinich never said a word. He just resigned as campaign manager for RFK. Well, that was unsustainable. Talk about not sustainable. How are you going to go to it? You know a guy that you love and admire, this man, and suddenly he starts lying for the first time you've ever seen him. Lying straight to the camera, and he continued to lie about Israel the entire time. So that's why RFK has not gone anywhere. Now, RFK is not going anywhere, and I'll tell you what, if he would have stuck with his guns, anti-war, stop the war, they don't have the right to do this, we need a negotiated settlement, simple things like that he could have said. And he would be way ahead now. He'd be way ahead. He'd be elected president. All those kids that are still have a conscience, you know, that want to stop Israel from destroying Palestine, killing all the people, they would be behind him 100% if he would have supported the right of the people to live. But he didn't, for whatever reason. Now, I didn't want to really talk about all that, but it's the voting system. I want to talk about this, like what Marguerite said. You have these machines, you have no idea who actually won the election. How do you know? Well, the last time, 2020, okay, why does the New York Times tell you that Joe Biden won the 2020 election and it's absolutely certain that he won the election? What proof do they have that Joe Biden actually won the 2020 election? They have no chain of custody of those ballots. Anytime you drop into a mailbox 100 ballots at a time, you don't know where those ballots really came from. If you go to a polling booth and you fill out a ballot, at least you know the person that got in there actually voted. And you know, you can find a link, a chain of custody. He had the voting paper, and then he handed it to the clerk, and she put it in a box or whatever. But you have nothing like that in the 2020 election. So the New York Times is lying. They cannot prove that Joe Biden won that election. And that's why people don't believe that he won the election. And nobody has faith in the U.S. election system anymore. So we need to fix that. We need to fix that right away, because there is no alternative to voting. What's the alternative? I know some people don't think that. They think coming out here and talking about anarchism will solve all the problems. No, that's how people get into power. in the United States, how they maintain power. They have a badge that says, I was elected. See, ta-da, look, now I have total power over you, and I can do anything I want. I can pass a law to make it illegal for you to work. We'll pass a law making it illegal for you. They can make it illegal for you to leave your home. They can declare a fake pandemic, and they can lock up the entire city. And they've done it before, and they could do it again. So these elections are extremely important. They're extremely important. Now, even if you can solve the election problem on the chain of custody of the ballots, it's very easy to do. And let me just explain this again. All you need to do is have a big plastic box in the middle of the room, okay? You can see through the box. You know it has it's like a big aquarium, and you put all the ballots in there, and you have live stream cameras at all times. And at the end of the night, you open the box, and then your poll workers count all the ballots. I don't care if it takes all night, bring another crew in. But you live stream the count, and the ballots don't go anywhere, okay? And you know, that's the kind of thing you could guarantee that the people will have faith in that type of clearly correct election. So that's what you need to demand. If the Americans don't demand that, you will be forever wondering who is actually elected. You don't know. There'll be suspicion. It'll be going on forever. So everyone should support that. Now, the second thing about elections, just as important as the live stream vote counting on the spot, it is getting the right to vote for more than one person at a time. Now, I know that sounds weird. Why would you want to have to vote for two people at the same time? You need it because the current system forces you to accept the lesser evil. People know that they're going in there and there are only two choices, Democrat or Republican, and they're trying to figure out which one is the lesser evil, okay? Let me see. Could be Trump, could be Biden, could be Gore, could be Bush, could be whoever. But you only have two choices. Why? Because if you try to vote for Nader or anybody outside the system, if you try to vote for even RFK Jr., they're going to say, wait a minute, you're voting for a person, when you vote for him, the third party guy, you're taking a vote away from the lesser evil. See, ordinarily we would vote for the lesser evil. So when you take a vote away from the lesser evil, what are you doing? Who gets in? If you take votes away from the lesser evil, who's going to get in there? The worst evil. Every time you vote for a third party, you'll be putting the worst evil in there. And that's exactly why there has never been a third party ever elected in the United States, because people are forced with the choice and they don't want to put the worst evil in there. Therefore, they vote for the lesser evil. Now, it's so simple to vote for 1, 2, 3 voting. 1, the real candidate, okay? The person you want, Richard Deegan. I'm voting for him for mayor, all right? I'm not voting for Eric Adams. I'm not voting for the Republican. I'm voting for Richard Deegan as mayor of New York. Now, guess what? If Richard Deegan does not come in the top 2, they'll throw that out and they'll count your lesser evil vote, number 2. You write number 2, you put the lesser evil. Whatever you think that is, you vote for them, but in the number 2 position, so that you will not be taking a vote away from them if your real candidate does not come in. And it is the only solution, and they already know about this solution. The Democratic Party put that in the primaries. So they gave their activists, they threw them they call it throwing them a sock, throwing them a bone to chew on. Well, we can put this into the primaries, so they can have all their phony candidates fighting it out, whatever. But they will never put it into the general election, because then you could have people voting for the real candidate. And it could be anybody. It could be Nader. Nader could have gotten 40 million votes in that system. People would not have been afraid, to vote for Nader. And this will, the only thing that can shake up this ridiculous nonsense that we've had to face every year is this change. So what we're saying is, this group supports that. This group supports no tax on labor, abolish the income tax, lower the rents by 2/3, and do all the things that you know are needed for human life in New York. Okay, so these are the things that we're putting out on the table for people to think about, and hopefully we can get some support on these issues. Because if you don't do it, it'll just go on forever. They will tell you about Trump, they'll tell you about Kamala, whatever. Who needs that? Who needs it? You need to be electing your own people and getting them in there.
Well done.